Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of the Stair Vodcast, presented by Heineken 00 in partnership with Loop News. I'm your host, Shanique, for the series, and here on the Stair, I am always joined by a Formula One superfan and a motorsport expert to keep track of all the news, views, and the inevitable drama from the 2023 F1 grid. If this is your first time watching the series, then welcome, and it's important for you to know that we have 2 previous episodes of The Stair that you may catch up on if you've missed it. You can find them on YouTube at The Stair or on Loop News. In case you missed it, Heineken gave one lucky F1 fan the ultimate Formula One VIP experience at the Miami Grand Prix held recently. In episode 2, we got to meet the voice of our very excited winner, Jillian Lee, and now we get to meet the person and hear all about her Miami Grand Prix experience. Hi, Jillian.
Hey.
Welcome to The Stair. How are you?
Thank you, I'm great.
Jillian, I don't know who you're giving this demure. I mean, yeah, we met Jillian,
All right.
the winner. So let's talk a little bit about, we heard the phone call, but tell us about the moments immediately after the phone call. Who was your first phone call? Who you called and said, we're going to Miami?
Well, during the call, I called my daughter on WhatsApp video call. So she was watching me lose my mind while it was going on. So after I hung up with you guys, she was still on the call and I was just going berserk, like bouncing off the walls. I can't believe it. Pack your bags, get ready to go. So it was...
So she actually got to take the trip with you?
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, for sure.
Wonderful.
It wasn't a question of whether or not she was the one coming. She was probably the only person that knew that I entered. I had to tell her because it was smack dab in the middle of her graduation.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, well, you know.
You're like,
if
mommy
I
win?
Well, no, I'll go to graduation.
Yeah.
But she's like, no, mommy, if you win, you have to take me. Like, no, don't, yeah. So.
Okay. So he's like, oh, well, you know, Lewis our graduation, Lewis our graduation. We are a Lewis fan, right?
It was a clue. I am, but I am really a Ferrari girl for this year. Mm-hmm. I'm new to F1 relatively. I think I got a crash course because of the Netflix series. Mm-hmm. So watching that, I have great admiration for the Mercedes team. I love Toto. So he's my favorite principal. Lewis, 7-time world champ, so you can't diss him. Yeah. But I just didn't gravitate to him. I don't know if that's because of the series. I mean, he's great, skillful, but I can't say I have a favorite driver at this point. Mm-hmm. I really admire different things from different drivers. But when I support sport, I tend to like to have a team that I'm cheering for.
Yeah, okay.
And that is a skillful underdog. You know, we have potential. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to go to Red Bull because they're winning. And Ferrari just appealed to me overall.
All right, so Ferrari is your team. You had an entire weekend in Miami. You could rub shoulders with the Ferrari team at a party, 1 or 2. So give us a little bit of your Heineken experience, because I heard there was partying, heard there was some sightseeing, there was some all sorts of stuff. So tell us what happened.
Yeah, so from get-go, I must say, like, Heineken hooked us up from before we left Jamaica. We had a meet and greet, hopped on the plane, everything was seamless. At the location, there were a couple of events that we were supposed to attend, one of which was at a brewery. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see any of my Ferrari drivers there, but the experience was nice. We also had a gondola ride that was also Heineken sponsored. And during that ride, it coincided with driver's parade. So it was during that parade that I was able to see a couple of the drivers, including Lewis was my first one. I think one of the videos you'd have heard a screaming maniac going, I love you, Lewis! I mean, in the background. So that was me. I saw a couple of the drivers, Yuki Tsunoda, Nando. It was just spectacular.
Yeah. So, you know, you entered the promotion. You have gone to Miami now for your first in-person. This was your first in-person Formula One?
Yeah, first.
Has it changed the way, do you think it will change the way you watch Formula One on TV now that you've gotten the real life experience of it? Will it change the way you experience Formula One on the TV?
For sure, especially for the next couple of races coming up in this season. I will definitely be hearing the zing that goes by and the feeling, the power and the speed. and the whole energy from being there in real life. So it would add to the excitement for sure. Because even watching the reruns of the Miami Grand Prix, I'm like, yeah, I was at that car. Yeah, so for sure. And definitely my daughter, because she's like, new, brand new. She's like, Mommy, we have to go to another one of these together. Yeah, so she's like totally into it now.
So Jamaica sent quite the contingent to Miami. You were there, of course. Your daughter was there as your guest. But who were the other persons in the Heineken Jamaica contingent to Miami?
Of course, there was Jody, from the assistant brand manager, who guided us through everything. Big up Jody. Nick Liu from Skunk Nation. There is also Fraser and Stevie McConnell. I'm also a big fan of Fraser, so it was cool meeting up with him and being able to experience it with him as well. Nice. And at the end of it, we're pretty much like a whole big family, to be honest. So I made some good connections there, and they were just cool people to hang out with.
But thank you so much for joining us on The Stair and sharing your Miami experience.
Thank you for having me, and thanks for giving me this opportunity. I will never forget it.
Our super fan for this episode is Danielle Howe, and I hear she is a huge Red Bull fan. I mean, we can't miss it. She has on the jersey and all. So welcome to The Stair, Danielle.
Hi, thank you for having me, Shani.
How are you?
I'm doing really well.
We have to start with the elephant in the room. Which of the Red Bull drivers do you support?
Definitely Sergio Checo Perez.
Right.
That's my guy. Him and Daniel Ricciardo are my top two drivers. They're not the champs right now. I know Daniel isn't driving, he's a reserve driver. But for me, they embody what I think Formula One is. They have good personalities, they're fun, they have good skills as drivers. And also I just love the way they conduct themselves on track. It's really good to see them drive.
All right. Well, you said Perez is your driver, so it's only fitting that our first thing that they all need to know from the top 5 is whether or not Perez is a genuine contender this season. Red Bull is still dominating as a team, but can Checo launch a title challenge and keep it exciting for the fans? What do you think?
I think if there was any year that we would see that happen, it's going to be this year. With the cost cap happening and all of the vehicles being on the same level, and with Daniel Ricciardo coming in as a reserve driver, we see that Checo is really hungry. He's not taking team orders. He's not sitting back and allowing the number one to be number one. And you can see it with the fact that how he's qualifying. He's qualifying doing the same sector times as Max. A lot of times we're seeing him excel in terms of the time schedule with the sprint qualifiers. We saw him really excel in those spaces, and I think with the addition of the sprints this season, we do see him have more opportunities to really showcase what he can do, because we know Max is going to be a sit back, I'll wait, let you guys do it first. Checo is going to go out. He's going to fight. He's hungry, and I think that's why.
You know, I don't doubt that Checo has the skills, but do you think that with the team orders on the Red Bull team, if he's really posing a challenge to Max, because of course they want Max to have the three-peat, so if he's really posing a challenge to him, do you think that they'll allow him to go ahead and be a challenger?
I don't think they'll allow him, but I think he'll still take it. Especially with Alonso being in the mix this year, which I don't think anybody expected. Charles and Lewis and the top 5 that persons are used to talking about, Carlos, that's fine. But Alonso this year is showing that age doesn't mean anything. Years in F1 doesn't mean anything. It's the car.
Yeah.
And because it's the car and the skill of the driver in the car, I think that throws in that, no. We can't allow team orders. We don't have the safety of having team orders if I want to be a champion.
All right, fair enough. So from Red Bull over to Ferrari, they're calling him Calamity Charles right now, which is so unfortunate. But we're all wondering if he has lost his nerve. Has Charles Leclerc lost his nerve? He's gone from title hopeful to midfield runner in the last 12 months. His interviews are now tense. His confidence level is dropping. So what do you think? Has he lost his nerve?
I definitely think he has. When we saw Charles 2 years ago, especially in the pandemic, we saw the pressure was gone. He was the golden boy for Ferrari. Coming from Monaco, being a native to Monaco, there was a lot of pressure on Ferrari for him to restore the glory. And in the team orders, there was no, him and Carlos, while they were being on the same level, you could still see that there was favoritism that he was able to utilize so that he could feel like a star. I think that this year in particular with the cap and with him having issues with his car, that this is the first time we're really seeing, I want to call it the childhood Charles, the cartoon Charles, where we're seeing that younger version of him where he's still unsure of where he is because he's seen so many rookies coming in this year. I think that's a bigger impact. There were so many rookies this year. And he sees how quickly team orders are changing for these rookies. So when he's looking at F2 and he's seeing what's going on there, he must be like, okay, this is probably my last season. If I don't get it together, that's it.
Now, if you take out the Red Bulls, it's a highly competitive midfield area with only small margins between the challengers. So who's winning that midfield battle? Now, at the beginning of the season, we asked this question, and I feel like your response is going to be a lot different from what we had in the previous 2 episodes. So who's leading the midfield right now?
I want to say Aston Martin, and I feel like Alonso is carrying it on his back. And after not seeing them on the track for so long and seeing him come in with that vehicle and do the way he has, definitely not. It wasn't on my bingo card for this year to be talking about Alonso this much this season.
You mentioned McLaren, and I want to get your take on McLaren and Alpine, because Lando Norris and Pierre Gasly, they're pretty close, and then the other 2 drivers for those 2 teams, they're pretty, no, well, Nick is doing worse. Oscar is doing a little bit worse, but they're around the same. So between Alpine and McLaren, which would you give the edge for the midfield if we were to put those 2?
I'm putting my money on Alpine this season.
Really?
Pierre, so when Pierre got demoted from main Red Bull to AlphaTauri, I think it did a lot for him. And the last 2 years I saw him driving AlphaTauri, I think that there's no other, without Daniel being there for Lando, he doesn't have that drive in himself that Pierre has. And that's coming from being a dropped driver. That's really his pure motivation. So for that, I think he's going to edge them out. And he's also a little more experienced, if we're going to be fair, on how many years he's been on this stage. I think until Lando has the embarrassment of sitting out a year or having to move to a team that's less fawning over you, he hasn't gotten that reality check yet. And that's what's making him not have that edge for me.
That's a very interesting take. I would always give Lando, I don't know. I have a soft spot for Lando as a driver. I feel like he's learning a lot and he's really pushing himself to be up there with the big boys at his young age. So I really feel like there's a lot more out of him, but I do take your point. All right, another team with a newer driver and an experienced driver, Mercedes. So George versus Lewis. No doubt that George he has the upper hand in a sense on Lewis this year, and Lewis is under contract negotiations right now. So will he keep going with Mercedes, do you think, or is it looking like the beginning of the end with Lewis at Mercedes?
I've been saying for the last 2 years that this is Lewis's last year with Mercedes.
Really? Why?
I've been saying that for 2 years. For me, when I see Lewis and his drive, I follow him on social media. I love Lewis. Even you see me here as Red Bull, I follow Lewis on Instagram and stuff. I love him as a driver. And I've seen how he's become more self-motivated and less team-motivated. It's more like he's carrying the team than the team is carrying him.
Okay.
Where he has to be like, guys, I know that we keep going. We're going to do better next week. Don't worry. And he has to be almost like a dad to them, because as a driver, it's easy for you to throw a tantrum over faulty vehicles and mechanics, but that's not his personality because of who he is. So I think for that reason, he's probably ready to go, because he needs to be in a space where he can have the support being, how can we make Lewis be comfortable and not Lewis needing to comfort the whole team about their poor behavior.
Let's talk about the rules for a minute. it may be on the table to change the rules, because there's a lot of complaints that this season is just a little predictable and it's a little boring because Red Bull is dominating. Now, Toto Wolff, who is over at Mercedes, of course, Toto would be okay with the rules being changed because of the position that his team is in this year. But over at Red Bull, Max is saying, no, if you change the rules, I'm gone. What do you think? Should there be a rule change? Is that what we need right now to shake things up and make it a little bit more interesting?
I think that FIA changing the rules is going to disrupt not only the drivers, but the experience of all of us as fans, as viewers. So I think that it's more about improving the car, improving the experience, improving the tracks, not necessarily trying to change the rules so that persons feel their egos being played to, or not having the drivers drive with their best technical skills. I think that's where they should put their efforts in ensuring, because we heard lots of complaints in Miami about the state of that track. It needs more time, it needs some improvement. So I think that's where they should focus on more of that side of what the drivers are experiencing and what the cars are doing, and keep the rules tight, keep them there. They get that scrap out of them, and that's what we're looking for.
Gotcha. So now we're going to talk about the Heineken 00 Responsible Driver. Now, for the responsible driver segment, we basically keep an eye on driver transgressions, because they earn penalty points, and anyone who earns over a certain amount of penalty points within a 12-month period, they get 1 race ban. So we've talked about the people at the lower end, we talked about people in the middle. This week we want to talk about somebody who has been making great strides over the years. We're talking about Yuki Tsunoda. So he's one of the AlphaTauri drivers, and in previous season he was a bit accident prone. Every time he touches the car, it would go into the barrier or into somebody else. So this season he's been incredibly consistent, and with P11, P11, P10, P10 and P11, he is staying out of trouble. He's getting more out of the car than expected. What do you think of Yuki this season compared to Yuki previous seasons?
I think Pierre leaving him had a really big impact this year. And that's a good thing for him, because as a driver, when he came in as the rookie for AlphaTauri, he would have been able to see Alex Albon come and go out of Red Bull, to see Pierre come and go out of Red Bull in terms of the Toro Rosso team. So when he sees that, and sees that even though AlphaTauri is not the Toro Rosso, he's still aware that the changes that happen in Red Bull are unceremonious. Yeah. You perform or die. So I think especially with him getting a new teammate this year in Nick DeVries, in him getting a rookie come but isn't a rookie, come and take it, I think he's definitely calmed down. He feels more secure now. He's been with the team for a few years. So I think that's the benefit that we're seeing. We're just seeing his maturity, and it's beautiful to watch. Yeah, it's definitely his maturity. When he came in, he was just a young driver who, he was on a team, and that's cool for him, but now he's gotten a lot more mature, as you said. He's seeing what the opportunities are that await him if he performs how he needs to perform. So definitely, I think maturity is what's doing it for Yuki. So you go, Yuki. Well done. All right, Daniel, you've shared a lot of knowledge with us, but now it's time for us to test your knowledge in a different way. All right, we're going to talk about the lap time quiz. So the lap time quiz, the rules are very simple. I will ask you a series of questions, and your task is to answer all the questions correctly in the shortest possible time. If you get a question incorrect, you will get a penalty, a 5-second penalty for every answer that you get incorrect. You'll also be aiming to be at the top of the leaderboard, which is currently occupied by our episode 2 superfan, Dre Williams, with a time of 2 minutes and 9 seconds. So the time to beat is 2 minutes and 9 seconds. All right.
All clear on the rules?
All clear.
You ready?
Ready.
All right, let's go. So true or false, every Grand Prix on the 2023 calendar has a minimum total distance of 300 kilometers.
False.
All right, Monaco is 260 kilometers. You're correct. Number 2, in 2023, Mick Schumacher is the reserve driver for 2 teams. Name any one of the teams.
Mercedes-Benz.
Correct. Question 3, how many Grand Prix weekends this season will feature a Saturday sprint race, 4 or 6?
6.
Correct. No man, here you go on. Which Grand Prix takes place at the circuit Gilles Villeneuve?
France.
Canada. Good try. What is Lewis Hamilton's record for consecutive drivers' championships, 4 or 6?
6.
It's actually 4, 2016 to 2020. What is the budget cap for F1 team? Is it 155 million US or 135 million US dollars?
135 million US dollars.
Right. Where will the 2023 season finish up this year? Is it Abu Dhabi or Las Vegas?
Las Vegas.
Abu Dhabi. Who won more world championships, Ayrton Senna or Sebastian Vettel?
Seb Vettel.
3 drivers from Finland have won the World Drivers' Championship. Name any one.
Max Verstappen.
Finland. You could have said Keke Rosberg, Mika Häkkinen, or Kimi Räikkönen.
Okay.
All right, and the last question is Fernando Alonso won 2 World Drivers' Championships back to back. Who was his team at that time?
He was McLaren.
He was at Renault.
No.
Yes,
Yes.
Renault. All right, so that wasn't too bad. You got a lot of them correct.
Thank you,
I
thank
didn't
you.
need to. I mean, I always think the super fans think I'm really testing if they're a super fan with this game, but I really am not. I was already convinced, but you did really well. Remember, the time to beat was 2 minutes and 9 seconds. But you did get 5 questions incorrect, so we did have to add on some penalty time. So your final time is 1 minute and 56 seconds, which means you're on top of the leaderboard.
Yes.
Good
Yes.
job. Good job. Good job. Good
Thank
job. You've
you.
been such an amazing sport. Thank you for being our super fan for episode 3.
Thank you so much.
And
Thank
we
you for
have
having
to continue talking. We have to continue talking after this.
course.
So the conversation continues. All right, guys, that's it for this episode of The Stare presented by Heineken 00 in partnership with Loop News. Don't forget to subscribe to The Stare on YouTube. It's at The Stare so that you don't miss out on any episodes, and keep enjoying your Heineken 00 for the rest of the Formula One season.